I believe gatekeeping to be one of the biggest, and if not the most influential reason why we get ourselves into abusive relationships. I believe that when you take somebody who is a narcissist or is abusive, whether it be a family member, whether it be a wife, husband, boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, what we all do, and what people who exploit other people do a lot, is in order to get through life and to have friends and to get jobs, we have to sell ourselves. We have to talk about our accomplishments. We have to come up with ideas why this company should hire us and that we're going to continue to be hardworking. I've been hardworking this other business I used to work at. Didn't quite work out. I'm here. Within 3 years, I'm still going to be as hardworking as ever. I know things about this business what other people don't know. We have to draw. We have to use things to make ourselves stand out. The problem is, it's down to us to find happiness within ourselves and not believe that somebody is the key to your happiness. Because in a lot of these videos I see in documentaries on people find themselves in abusive relationships, away from the victim, the perpetrator, they seem to be somebody who is pretending that they know something the world doesn't know, that they hold the happiness to all people. Now, I grew up I grew up around the art scene, and then I work in that myself. So I know as an artist and somebody who's also studied other artists that there is no higher truth apart from what you can read by other people in books. And it is the artist's impression to interpret to people what those ideas are. But there's a whole lot of people around that will never ever make it as artists, and they're trapped with this dark feeling that the world doesn't want to listen to them, and because the world doesn't want to listen to them, they go high and mighty, and they pretend it's like the outside. They're being inflicted by the world, and then they pretend that they have this greater know. And artists and people who work around that, people who maybe study philosophy, they do have a pull, because they usually do find themselves in public speaking, or even the joke is, the artists usually work in a cafe for 15-20 years, and through that time they become very good at convincing people and very good at, it's like a performance. They are very good at deceiving people to this feeling. And when you're broken, and when you're feeling vulnerable, and when you're feeling like nobody in the world understands you, or perhaps the world around you is a little bit boring or vanilla, these people, they don't always have to be artists, I'm just using an example, but these people do tend to gatekeep these ideas. They become very attractive. The same way I myself am attracted to artists. I love listening to artists be interviewed because I feel like they know something I don't know. I feel like they're tunneling deeper down. And the interesting thing is, I've heard artists what I completely trust in, that they have no skeletons in their closet and they are cool people and everything they say is intelligent. But I've re-listened to interviews and I've found some of the things they've been saying geographically isn't true. And of course it doesn't really matter because we can't pick everybody up on facts. But the idea is that we should never ever hold somebody above ourselves as highest standard. We should use people as inspiration. So instead of completely falling head over heels for somebody and completely being blown away by what they have to say or show, we have to be inspired by them and then nothing else. And what happens is we we fall into their web of lies that we think they know something we don't know. We think they might pretend to have friends what don't exist. They might pretend to be in the know when they actually don't know. They might take very clever pictures to make out they're doing things what they're not. In Paris, there's a sports car, like a convertible, that you can rent, and you can take a picture. I think you can even drive around in it. And I see people renting it, taking pictures, but it's not their car. But they could easily go onto social media and post that this is their car. And if we're unable to enjoy life and understand that you don't need other people to get your satisfaction or your knowledge, then it will make you safer from being a target. Now, of course, there are other issues within this, that people who are in problematic to abusive relationships, sometimes they can be part of the problem, that they can have issues and problematic behaviors themselves, and they breed and they breathe this energy, what then creates these real nasty situations. I've seen people get into relationships where they actively know that it's going to be problematic and it's going to cause them trouble down the road, but they've gotten into these relationships because they want to be destroyed by somebody, and that's a whole other conversation. We might get into it in a minute. But they're doing it for attention. They're doing it because they have no boundaries, which can come from their parents. Parents, I believe, are one of the biggest causes for people getting into problematic relationships. So the parents have set no boundaries. The parents have not convinced the child what real love or real passion, friendship looks like. So the kid, when they grow up, they will attract to people. People can't read people correctly, so they attract to problematic people, or they see somebody what's actually quite nice and quite friendly, and they see that person as problematic because they don't have these problematic energies what they think somebody else should have. It can be very twisted. But just getting on to what I mentioned earlier is, when we fall in love, and if we are depressed ourselves, we can sometimes want love to shatter us and destroy us. If you're feeling down and if you have sex with somebody, you can kind of feel like, I wish this is the last time I have sex. I'm so content now. I feel so loved. I'm happy for it all to end now. And this is this sort of, and that comes out of this depressing seed inside of us, where we get something good and we automatically think it should end, or we think that's it, and we don't deserve it, or we're not going to get anything as good later on. If we are in these depressed moods, we let people ruin and impact our lives, and because we see the whole world around us as twisted and evil, we think, this lesser evil, I'm going to let this lesser evil destroy me because I don't want to face what's around me. What's around me is worse or just as bad. So to conclude, the most interesting thing I learned from myself is, when I was growing up, with being an outsider, I felt like I was able to channel into different voices and different ideas, and that actually made me kind of a commodity and quite likable to people, because they would bring me into their groups because they wanted to hear my ideas on life. And I don't disagree that I've certainly, the reason why I'm making these videos now, because I've certainly seen life from a different perspective. So I think I have a little bit of some sense of injecting that into the world. But one of the things what I saw happen as I was growing up, I saw people weaponizing their issues. So I had my own issues, which made me the outsider, but I never really weaponized them. I always, if I did something what I thought was pretty bad, I would do utmost to change that value within myself. And I never saw my issues as a personality. I started exploring my issues. I started going to therapy. I started working on myself, not as the underdog story, not to hear myself talk, but to make life better for myself and to get these chemical imbalances and these issues out of me. But what we're doing now, we're seeing people who think it's cool to be a little messed up, or they think it is the truth. They think that the reality of life is that I am messed up, and therefore nothing else can survive except the darkness. And even if they say there's some flowers coming out of the darkness, that energy is to give people some hope, to attract them to them. And when I got a little bit older, I realized that I actually didn't know anything, and all the stuff what made me outside and made me sometimes perhaps think I was smarter than other people was just because I had more time studying art and being around art to find myself reading philosophers, and my friend circles were people what were thoughtful and would think. So my whole life has been about thought. And if you haven't had that life and you've never been on that path, so I'm attractive like anybody else is to people with information, but I always go to the source of information as opposed to being on YouTube and listening to somebody. And of course, anybody on YouTube, including myself, can, or should I say, to the topic of this video, they don't hold any power, like any information over you. The information you can go read in the library or you can get from a book isn't also going to change your life. What's going to change your life is yourself and your own things you do, your own sacrifices, and your own, you look at your own self and you think, I want to change this about me, not because of what somebody else is, not what somebody's forcing me to do or what somebody said on the internet. No, go read. There is that joke, you read a book, good for you, read another book. Keep reading books, and those ideas and those novels and whatever, they hold different ideas of truth, and they are about as close as you're ever going to get to having answers for life. Nobody else out there has the answers. Now, of course, as I was saying earlier, artists and people what are clever, they can interpret things, but understand you can do those things too. You don't have to listen to videos like this. You don't have to, if you're feeling a certain way, and maybe I should do this more on my channel now, recommend, writers and people to go listen to. You can get, if you've ever read the manga series Vagabond, I learned more from that about life and myself than I have from any video on the internet, any talk. It is in the art we learn things, but a lot of people around the art world, they try and interpret it, and they try and gatekeep it, and they try and act like they know something other people don't know. And that's the issue. And these usually reside in a lot of relationships that I know something, I'm going to hang on to it, you want that something, and I'm going to give you little doses of it. I actually don't know anything. It's like, I could not offer you happiness. You have to find that yourself. But a lot of people are abusive. They gatekeep that happiness. They make it feel like they're the only people where they can give you that happiness, and they're the only people where their opinions matter, when that's just not the truth. Okay guys, it's pretty chilly out here, but it's nice. A few birds, like flocks of birds flying around, left, right. So it's pretty nice. I'm going to continue my walk, get myself back, get a coffee. I know a while ago I started this channel on that I don't drink coffee anymore. I have a coffee every week now, just as sort of like a treat. You gotta have treats in life. Okay guys, cheers, ciao.